Yo, mahalo guys, thank you for tuning in to my channel. This is Kawila Motors. You know me, my name is John and I am with Kawila Motors on Oahu, Hawaii, and here is the 2022 Epure race breakdown. Check it out. All right, so from the top working down, right? Basic stuff. We have our battery indicator, which shows us our percentage. We're at 95%. This is factory from the, charged from the factory, and basically the same thing. We still have the S3 bars, the World Team Edition bars, that come stock with the race model and the Escape R model. We still have our Magura throttle here, which is actually one of the smoothest throttles out there, that to ever come stock on a bike. Very smooth, very responsive. And if you haven't already seen, check the link above. Electric Motion does have some videos where they show you how to adjust these things so that you get the free playouts, so you can have a more responsive riding experience. Now we got, of course, the Brake Tech front brake here that follows down to the 4-piston caliper. This is something new. If you've only seen a 2021 or a 2020 model, what they've done is they've actually integrated the map button, the LED light to indicate what map you're in, and the FRB, the fixed regenerative brake, into one switch here that's mounted on the left side, which is actually great. Before, the map switch was mounted on the throttle side, but when you're riding, given that this bike you can change maps while riding, which is one of the great things, because if you're riding with gas bikes and your buddy's up front and you hear the gas bike rev out, you may need to get out of green because you may have a hill coming up, and you can just switch that on the fly with no hesitation and not have to stop the bike and do some reset process like some other bikes to get the power out of it. So that's cool, right? You have, of course, you have your Brake Tech master cylinder here for your clutch, and we all know that the Epure Race and the Escape R comes with a hydraulic clutch, just like a real bike. And also like a real bike, we'll get into a little bit later, stay tuned for the end, how the TKO works, or the tick over system. And that is basically electric idle. You're gonna have to stay to the end of the video to check that out. So of course, the map switch here, when our key is disengaged, you lose the light. When it's in neutral mode, when the key is on, you get a white light. And of course, in regular mode, not TKO mode or tick over mode, you can select 1, green, blue, 2, and red, 3. And I've said it before, this is merely the response of the bike. The top speed is not really affected, but the throttle response is a lot greater on red versus the green. And safety wise, if you ever fall off, boom, you can kill the bike, you can stop the bike from running away. That is awesome. Very good safety feature, like every other trials bikes, but especially good on the electric bikes because you can't kill the bike. Okay, moving down, they hit us with something new. Blue anodized aluminum triple clamps. Now this is just purely aesthetic, but let's be honest, this thing looks great. Like, it looks great with the nice red caps on our tech forks, which have this chromatic coating that actually is better for resistance and binding. It's less resistance and binding. And like they say, that the things are in the details, right? The fine details. They've upgraded the bumpers for the steering stop, and unlike the other ones, this one is actually very hard to turn, so it's very, very easy to keep it going. When it stops full lock, it's all good. And also another small little upgrade that makes a big difference, this little hanger here. Before, it was attached to this with a little loop, and because that moved, your cable would move all over the place. But now they have this little plastic piece that holds it in and is easy, quick disconnect if you gotta take it out. Right? That's awesome. Coming down, of course, 4 caliper Brake Tech piston here, and thank God, black hubs. Thank you, Jesus. That is the one thing that Hawaii dirt was killing. It was killing the white. You know, it was working great, but it didn't look that great, right? You know, it's white, red dirt. And if you ever ridden here, like I said before, red dirt stains everything. I mean, we have a shirt company after red dirt coloring. So the red dirt stains everything. These black hubs will keep it be a lot nicer and matches, you know, the wheels, of course. And when you get to the wheel type, Michelin X11 Trials tires, stock with the bike, stock with all the bikes, even the Epure, the belt driven one, and the Escape belt driven as well. You know, you're gonna get the same quality tires on all the bikes. Got new graphics. They went with a gray theme, which is actually kind of nice. It's a little more subtle. It doesn't pop as much as the 21s, but you know, when we want to ride Ninja, that's what we do. Yeah, moving over to the graphics. Yeah, like I said, gray, blue, red, nice graphics here. This is very different, and every year they come out with different color schemes that are just as nice. Too bad I don't have the comp, and the comp was a beautiful bike. I love the matte. And Electromotion, please, 2023, do an all matte bike. Just do it all matte. It's gonna look amazing. All right, your battery configuration is the same, you know, turn on, turn off. And they did a little bit different this year with the battery casing. The shape is the same, the amp hour is the same, everything is the same internally, but on the outside you get a flat aluminum casing on the panel out here without padding. It just has a graphic on it, I believe, and it has a rubber gasket inserted, so just better peace of mind. The other one was silicone and it was good, you know, sealing, but this rubber will ensure that you don't get any moisture or water that goes into the battery. That's nice to know, right? It's the little things. And again, moving down here to the little things, this guy right here, such a small detail, but such a good use. It's just a plastic plug, and it plugs up the recess that was in the counter shaft, and that thing would just get filled with water. And my 2021 is a little bit rusty, I'm not gonna lie. It's a little bit rusty. I cleaned it out, no big deal, but that just stops the water from getting in. Perfect little thing. They have grip tape that they designed for the frame, and keep in mind, guys, trick bits that you all know make the fork guards, the full-length fork guards for tech forks. They make swing arm guards. I believe the swing arm one was the Sherco. The swing arm is shared with the Sherco design, so the Sherco ones will fit. And it's not carbon fiber, it's like a carbon plastic or polymer. So it's tough, but it's not that expensive. Trick Bits makes a carbon frame guard for the Electromotion as well. And since the frame did not change from 2020, no matter which bike you get, you can use those guards for it. Stock pegs, S3 steel pegs, good quality pegs right off the bat. You can definitely upgrade these with the Hard Rock or the Curve design pegs, but you don't have to. Right out of the bat, you're good to go. Yeah. And of course the black frame, which we love. The one thing they did also, you know, upgrade from the 2021 is this shock right here. So this is just a Ole shock. However, it's a three-way adjustment shock, whereas the last year's one was a simple two-way. Gold spring, and the color is just what it is. But if you see that red dial back there, that just gives you one more layer of adjustment for the rebound, and the speed and the rebound of the shock gives it a little bit more adjustment that you can dial it in for your advanced riders. I'm not quite there yet, but hopefully one day I will be. 428 chain, and of course this is also nice. They went 57 tooth sprocket, just like all the other races in the class. And they went with a gray sprocket. I thought they were going to do black, but I guess it looked black in the pictures, but in actuality it's more like a gunmetal gray. Of course, trial competition X11, Michelin X11 tires in the back. You got one of the best tires on the market for trials with the bike already in the rear as well. Front and rear Michelin X11s. Can't stress that enough. You know, you don't have to buy this bike and change the tires right away. Right out of the box, you're good to go. Also stock with the 2022 Galfler brakes. I believe it's the brake pads and the brake disc for the rear and the front. I forgot to mention for the front, but the front has Galfler disc as well as brakes. They went black anodizing, black hub, love it, right? Black anodizing for the nut, black anodizing for all the parts. Basically, they blacked out so many things, which is great for us because it's just gonna mean that our bike is gonna look better in the islands, especially, well, anywhere, it's gonna look better anywhere. Of course, there's your kickstand, and I'm not exactly sure, but I'm gonna measure if it's shorter. It seems like the bike sits better. I know sometimes a lot of people has been saying that the kickstand is too long and the bike stands up too straight, and I kind of get it. I park my bike in a garage most of the time, and there's a few times where I thought maybe it would tip over, or if it did tip over, I thought it was because of that. But it seems like the kickstand is a little bit shorter and the bike has more of a lean, which is great. You know, that's awesome. So, you know, small things, like I said, all small things. But the drivetrain is still the same. You got the Ashwood motor here, which is on the higher end of electric motors that it uses for all different types of EVs. And this will put out, of course, 11 kilowatts peak and a 6 kilowatts running. All right, now the moment we've all been waiting for, the last thing. We're gonna show you guys how the tick over works. All right, this is the famous TKO or tick over mode for the electric motion, only on the 2022 models and the 2022 comp, for the Epure and the Escape, or sorry, Epure Race and Escape R. Now it's a simple switch they put down here, yeah, and when it comes from the factory, there's a piece of tape on it saying to read the manual. And yes, guys, always refer to the manual before using it. This is a little bit tricky, and the last thing we want is this bike to go rolling off into somebody's car or someone else, literally. So read the manual, but when you're done with the manual, look down here, take the tape off, and what you want to do is, of course, with the bike in the neutral mode, yeah, key off neutral mode, you want to click this up. Simply click it up, and now you are ready for the TKO. And just for safety wise, I'm gonna point this bike in the direction so that we're not facing the cliff over here, right? So I'm sitting on the bike, and I'll show you guys here the TK mode, right? What it does basically, like I said before, it's basically electric idle. And if you guys don't really kind of like understand why you would need idle, and then let me be clear, like, you don't need idle on an electric bike, right? You don't need it. However, for the people who have ridden electric bikes or have ridden the Epure Race 2020 2021 models, you kind of understand that, or especially coming from a gas bike, right, where clutch is everything, slow twitches, slow movements, fine detail, you know, picking your line. The clutch is very important when you are just want to roll through something or position yourself where you want to be, with very minimal throttle and like very fine tuning. But with the electric bike, all your control comes from here, right? Every input comes from this. And if you're full cocked, or you're 3/4 cocked, and you want to make a real tight turn around something, and your wrist is bent, you're trying to give it a little bit of throttle, and you're kind of playing with the clutch, it's too much. It's too much. Or it's too little. How would I say? It's too little. It's not feeding you what you want, right? With the TKO idle, it reacts just like a gas bike, but without the sound necessarily all the time, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. But it reacts just like a gas bike, but you cannot stall the bike. And that's why you definitely want to wear this when you use the TKO, and you want to use this lanyard all the time, but especially when the TKO mode is on, because unlike a gas bike, you can't kill it. It's not going to fall over and just die even if the throttle is pinned or whatever, right? So we hit the switch, and in the TKO mode now, we'll select the map. Now you notice green no TKO mode, indicated by no sound and the bike is not moving forward. Okay, this is because they didn't want to have you go into a mode and automatically the bike jumps out if you're not used to it, right? So make yourself acquainted with this first before you go out and do something or ride it like you normally would. So like anything else, you want to put into green. Now when you press it again to go into blue and the red mode in TKO, you want to have your clutch in, or you have to have your clutch in unless you want the bike to move. Okay, so let's do that. Let's pull the clutch in and let's just hold the front brake just for safety, right? It's always a good precaution, even on a gas bike. You know, for me, I just hold the front brake just in case. And in green mode, it's regular, it's normal, it's just like non-TKO. Okay, and let's press this button and turn that sucker on. So you hear that, right? You hear that sound? Okay, that sound means the engine is running, and there's a sensor motor here. Because the clutch is in, the motor is allowed to freewheel. Now, just like any other gas bike, what happens when I pop the clutch? Let's see. Let's put it into red TKO. I'm gonna slowly release the clutch. Oh my god. You see how I'm moving? I'm just lightly moving, and I don't have my hand on the gas, but the bike is progressing itself just as if it was in, say, like third gear idle. Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not gonna trudge you down like a first gear on a regular, like say a 2-stroke 300 trials bike. It's not gonna have that much torque. But what you can do is when you're actually riding it, you can feather in with the throttle and just get a really good smooth transition when you want to just go real slow. Like, you don't have to give it throttle to just creep around in a circle. You can just rely strictly on the clutch. And I'm giving it no throttle. I'm just letting the TKO do its thing. And for the record, red has a little bit more torque, blue has a little bit less torque. It's all relative to the mode. But you can kind of see the idea, right? If I were to go this slow with my throttle hand or my throttle twisting only, it would be very hard because I'd have to be extremely smooth on the throttle. But now with the TKO, I can totally rely on the engine to push me forward when I need it by just slipping the clutch. All right? Ah. So the reason why you want to have this safety lanyard on is, like I said, a gas bike will die eventually if, you know, it falls over or something. An electric bike, you don't have that issue. So if you let go, the bike dies, right? Especially your clutch hand. This is kind of why I feel like I understand why it's more on the they place the safety switch on the left side versus the right side. I personally like it on the right side, but I've realized that if I get into a situation where I can pull the clutch, I will, right? And then I'm safe because my clutch is pulled, the bike isn't going anywhere, even if I'm whiskey throttling this side. But if my hand is stuck to this whiskey throttling and I let go of the clutch, meaning the bike wants to jump, it's not going to kill the bike because my hand is still on the throttle side. So if anything happens and I let go of the clutch side, now it kind of makes sense. I understand why it's kind of here. Yeah, but also it's gonna also helps with the TKO. It's just a slight, sometimes when you have situations when you want to put pressure on something, you can actually do that and just hold pressure against something, and it'd be a lot easier than just giving it throttle. You can slip the clutch and work with the bike just to hold pressure on an obstacle. And this is too advanced for me, obviously, but for all you guys who all you die-hard trials guys, you know, that just do this all the time, this is a big deal for you, I'm guessing, right? Holding pressure without having to input the throttle. Okay. Okay, this is the weird part. This is the weird part that I want you guys to see and hopefully try to understand. I'm gonna let the clutch out, but I'm gonna hold my brake and listen what happens to the motor. It stops. The motor stops because the sensor knows you can't push the bike anymore. Yeah, and I believe that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you come to a stop and you're holding pressure on something, you can use your brake to hold the pressure as well, to help you hold pressure on something, you know. And unlike the other electric bikes, or even the older Epures, when you roll back, if you have the TKO on, it's constantly giving input to the motor, so you won't actually roll back as easy. Like, it's actually hard to roll back with that thing on, rather than just freewheeling like all the other ones. So you actually have an engine type progressing you forward all the time. Could they make this a little bit stronger? I don't know, maybe. I don't know if it'd be worth it, but for right now, for my skill level, it's actually quite good. I'm gonna ride this around just a little more. TKO is not going to like tractor you up any hills. It doesn't have that much power, but it will just have the finer adjustment, so that when you need the power, it's smoother. It's more instant and it's smoother. I don't see myself using this too much in the trail per se, but definitely for trial stuff where I'm doing slow maneuvers, you know, and I want to take advantage of that spinning momentum of the motor to balance and just go from there. You know, that's probably where I'm going to use it the most, not necessarily for trail riding, you know.